Let's take a look at section 4.5, negative exponents, the example problems. Example 1, evaluate each power. 7 to the power of minus 2. All right, so let's take a quick look at what this equals to. This equals 7 to the power of minus 1 times 2. Now I can rewrite this as 7 to the power of minus 1 squared. Now, 7 to the power of minus 1 is just going to be 1 over 7. And then we square that. When we square that, we square the numerator to get 1. We square the denominator to get 49. We get 1 over 49. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you here. You can do this the other way. 7 to the power of 2 times minus 1, which is equal to 7 to the power of 2 to the power of minus 1, which is equal to 49 to the power of minus 1, which is equal to 1 over 49. It doesn't really matter which part you do first. You can reciprocal it first and then square it, or you can square it first and then reciprocal. Generally, with whole numbers, it's easier to do it this way. With fractions, it's often easier to do it this way. All right, now here's how I'm going to think about this question here. I'm just going to think about it this way. The negative tells me to reciprocal it, so I reciprocal it. 3 over 10 to the power of 3. So I did the reciprocal part, I did the negative part. I didn't write everything out this time, I just did the negative part, and then the negative part was gone, I was left with the power of 3. So it's going to equal to 27 over 1,000. So the negative told me to reciprocal it, and then the power told me to raise it to that power. All right, let's take a look at question C. No parentheses in question C. That means this exponent only applies to the 1.5. Now, I don't like working with decimals. Decimals are difficult with exponents, so I'm going to rewrite this guy out. 1.5 is 15 over 10, and 15 over 10 reduces to 7 over 5. No, 3 over 2. Jeez, think about it. So this is equal to negative 3 over 2 to the power of negative 3. This negative sign is not affected by the power. Now, the negative sign on my exponent is going to tell me to take the reciprocal. So I take the reciprocal, 2 over 3 to the power of 3. The negative sign disappears. All I'm doing is I'm doing this step up here. I'm doing this step up here all quickly in one step. So the negative tells me to reciprocal it. Then I have to raise them both to the power of 3. So I get negative, and then my fraction is going to be 8 over 27. Now, to me, that's easier than multiplying out 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5, or doing the reciprocal of 1.5 times 1.5 times the reciprocal of 1.5. It's just easier to work with a fraction. All right, we are going to evaluate these two without using a calculator. This is sort of the ultimate power that you have. We're going to do one in the long way, and then we'll kind of show you how to break it down into the shorter way. So I'm going to break this fraction apart into 3 parts. 16 to the power of negative 1 times 5 times 1 over 4. Those are 3 things. Negative 5 over 4 can break down into these 3 multiplication. Okay, I'm going to rearrange them now, because I want the 1 over 4 to go first, and I want the negative 1 to go last. 16 to the power of 1 over 4 times 5 times negative 1. That's the way I want it to go. Now I'm going to rewrite it using our power to powers. 16. Well, 16 to the power of 1 4. Well, that's going to be the fourth root of 16 to the power of 5 to the power of -1. Now I can just work it out. The fourth root of 16 is 2 to the power of 5 to the power of -1. Keep working. 2 to the power of 5 is 32 to the power of -1. So our final answer is going to be the reciprocal of 32, which is 1 over 32. Now that's a lot of work. And it's a lot to write out in that way. I'll show you how I would expect you to write this out in a quick way. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump through steps. We're going to show you how to do that right here. So I've got 16 to the power of -5 over 4. The first thing I do is I just deal with the denominator. Generally, you want to deal with the denominator and the radical part of it first. That makes your number smaller, makes it easier to raise to the power. So I'm just going to rewrite this as the fourth root of 16 raised to the -5. Just want to do that quickly. Then I can figure this out. The fourth root of 16 is 2 to the power of -5. Now, 2 to the power of -5, well, I can do 2 to the power of 5 to the -1. I can do either way. I'm going to do the negative. I'm just going to take this and make it 1/2 to the power of 5. And 1/2 to the power of 5 is 1 to the power of 5 on top, and 2 to the power of 5 is on the bottom. So 1 over 32. So you can see how I worked that out individually without writing down quite so many steps. Generally, first thing, deal with the denominator. Then you can reciprocal. And then third one, deal with the top one. All right, so let's take a look at this one. 25 over 36 to the -1 over 2. So first thing I'm going to do is going to deal with that denominator guy. That tells me to square root this. So this is going to be the square root of 25 over 36 to the power of -1. Right? We get rid of that denominator once we change that denominator into a radical. So this is going to be equal to 5 over 6 to the power of -1. I need to put brackets around here. This radical sign right here acts as brackets, keeping the whole 25 over 36 together and making that -1 apply to everything. Once that radical sign is gone, I need to put parentheses around my fraction so that the -1 applies to everything. All right, now I'm just left with a -1, which just means reciprocal. So I just reciprocal it, 6 over 5. So in doing these, I would suggest you deal with the denominator first. When you have a fractional exponent, you deal with the denominator. That's going to be a radical, whether it's a square root or a cubed root or a fourth root. Do that first. Then, if it's got the negative, then you can deal with the reciprocal. And then you can finally deal with the numerator of that fraction, which is the power. All right, example number 3. The velocity v of a dinosaur can be estimated using a formula that relates the stride length s and the frequency of the stride f. So how long the stride is in meters and how often the stride is taken in times per second. The formula is this: 0.155 s to the power of 5 over 3, f to the power of -7 over 6. What is the velocity when s is equal to 1 over 5? Now, I'm going to simplify this. This is 3 over 2. And f is equal to 0.3, which is 3 over 10. I'm simplifying, putting these in fractions, so I can do as much without the calculator as possible. So I write out my formula. V is equal to 0.155 s to the 5 over 3 times f to the negative 7 over 6. Okay, so v is equal to 0.155 3 over 2 to the power of 5 over 3 times 3 over 10 to the power of negative 7 over 6. All right. Honestly, turning them into fractions doesn't make it any easier, because yeah, it really doesn't. This is something where you need a calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this down quickly. So I can use a calculator, and you should be able to do this on your calculator as well. I need a recording of this. Alright, so let's go to a calculator. And maybe this would be a good time to introduce and give it a go at Microsoft Math. Microsoft Math is a calculator that you all have. And I haven't really used it much, but let's take a look. Oh, you don't have this, but you have access to this. First thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try drawing this. I'm going to get myself a pencil out. 0.155 times 3 over 2 to the power of 5/3. Let's see if it picks this up. Times 3 over 10 to the power of negative 7 over 6. Gives us an answer of 1.2412. I don't know if that's the correct answer or not, but let's let's remember that, and I'm going to go to another calculator, and I'm going to double check my results here. This calculator also features a few things, such as it gives you similar problems from web searches, and it actually helps you learn new topics. There's a lot that you can do with this. Alright, so I'm just going to go into another calculator just to confirm this. So a calculator that I know how to use. Alright, I've got it. So get Microsoft Math. It can help you out with doing calculations. I know how to use the solver calculator. Alright, so 0.1555 times, in brackets, 3 divided by 2. Then I go outside the brackets. And I have to find my O to the power button. Oh, right here. Aha. 3.22 raised to the power of, and I put in the brackets 5 divided by 3. Then I take the whole thing, I times it by, in the brackets, 3 divided by 10, and I raise that one to the power of negative 7 divided by 6. 1.245. That's what I get. So our answers are a little bit different. They're very close, but they're a little bit different. See what answer you get, and put your answer in the comments below. Ah, I see the problem. I put 3 5s in here instead of 2 5s, and we get the same answer. So Microsoft Math was able to get the same answer as this calculator. I know this calculator is right. All right, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below.